Hello again. I promised a more fun one, so I thought I'd open one up. Although it was very stupid because I don't feel very well. Oh, I'm tired. I didn't sleep. Even though I've got a brilliant new method of getting to sleep, which is those 10-hour YouTube videos of thunder and rain. It's absolutely amazing. It's like magic. I've had insomnia problems my whole life, and put on 10 hours of horror movie background noise, and I'm in heaven. Hey, Artie, how's it going? Do you want to drop in on this, Artie? And Helen, if she's about. Is Helen about? Yeah, although I'm probably I shouldn't do that really, Artie, because I'm so tired. I'm knackered. But I did promise to come back on and do something more fun. So I'll do a kind of any questions thing, I guess, or something along those lines. What was I going to say? Yeah. Well, Artie, if you're about, and if Helen's about as well, maybe we could do an impromptu one. You could take up the slack because I'm feeling a bit grim. So yeah, it's all happening with mermaids, isn't it? I don't think there's any coming back from this. Again, it always amazes me how this movement has all its scandals are in plain sight, and the kind of I'll put it in the production office meeting WhatsApp thing and see if people are up for joining. I'll invite some of the others. Oh, doing an impromptu 2-1 if anyone wants to join in. There we go. Alba. Oh yeah, I must do. Yeah. We should do, I guess, but they haven't really, they haven't reached out. I kind of forgot Alba existed. I hate to say it, but Nicola Sturgeon's. No, sorry. What was I talking about? I was talking about something just before this all kicked off. Can anyone remind me? Sorry, I'm so tired. Yeah, it was mermaids, and it was everything happening, and yeah, I mean, this grooming thing, I think it's really important that people understand it, Here's Artie. Yo. Oh, you're on the tube.
Yeah, is that okay? How's it going? Can you hear me?
If it works, that's amazing. Did you see my little video there about grooming that I just did?
Yeah, I was just watching it. It's great. It's really great. Yeah.
But it's like there's so much more to say on the subject, because it's, I mean, we always say it to each other, don't we? We like people who've realized what's going on here. It blows our mind on the daily.
Every day. Like we have to sort of like ration it out drips and drabs because it's just so much to do people. It's just astonishing. And the whole mermaids thing is unbelievable how shocking it is. And it's unbelievable that it's been right in front of everyone's noses this whole time. Yeah. God, it's amazing.
I mean, is there any better kind of example of a groomed society than the response to Susie Green's TED Talk? Like this was an audience presumably of quite smart people, right?
Yeah. And there's something about how like as long as they say it in a positive tone, everyone just presumes that whatever she's saying is fine.
That's it.
People don't know how to decipher anything to do with this gender stuff. So they just think as long as you wrap it in politeness, then it's fine, Yeah.
I got the gist of that, but I'm worried that this isn't going to work because I only heard little excerpts. But yes, you're right. It's just she does that. She's obviously been coached on how to do the hand gestures that you do during moth broadcasts and TED Talks. Actually, it's more a TED Talk than a moth broadcast. But you know what I mean? It's like they've all got a book called How Public Speaking the TED Talk Way, and they all read from it. And as long as everyone's following the rules of that discourse and that presentation, no one notices what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? Oh, Oh, right. Okay. You've muted yourself so that you can hear me. Yes. Okay. But yeah, that's all I was going to say, really. I mean, yeah, I totally agree with you. It is and you know, what's even more
Yeah,
fun?
it's a bit like how people whipped up by using the right tone, you know?
Yeah. This isn't going to work, Artie. It's too jumpy. I'm going to remove
I'm
you.
sorry, it's too choppy. I should let you guys go. I'm on the train. I'm sorry.
Thanks for joining in, though, sir. Very good to see you.
Okay. Good to see you guys.
Thanks for
Bye.
doing a remote reporting on the gender matter, on the gender. Fucking hell, I'm so tired. The gender beat. Yeah. So yes. So Susie Green went up on stage. She told a story about her son being gender non-conforming, about her husband not liking it, which is a gentle way of saying he sounds homophobic. And then it cuts to 16 years later, and he's off to get his genitals removed in Thailand. You know, that's a story of grooming. That's a grooming story. That's a terrifying story. That child never had a chance to find out who he really was. He was pushed into a closet made of his own body, as we often say. You know, I will have a nap after this. Thank you, Leslie. Listen, I did want to. I don't want to be talked about. I've got more fun things. I'll just say a couple of things I've been doing recently that some of you won't give a damn about, but I'll move through them quickly. The first is Shipbreaker on the Xbox. Anyway, like you will know within moments of playing it whether it is for you. But it is the game that was absolutely built for me. It is everything I love in a game. It's unbelievable. I really highly recommend it. It's like a puzzle game, except you're inside the puzzle because you play an astronaut and you have the kind of controls that you would associate with the film Gravity. You know what I mean? Which was very realistic in terms of a jet forward, a jet up, a jet down, you know, a rotating jet, right? So that's how you're moving about these huge spaceships, and you're cutting into them and putting all the scrap in different things. One furnace, one kind of other place, and a thing below. It's amazing. I can't tell you how good it is. It's the most immersive game I've ever played. You know, it's called Shipbreaker. I think it's called Shipbreaker. It's got some kind of confusing names. Shipbreaker Headspace or something. I don't know. The other thing I wanted to say is that I have been very much enjoying the music of, and I always forget his name. It's such an odd name. Alabaster de Plume. It's really, really good. He is like, imagine Pharaoh Saunders, that kind of spiritualism, transcendent jazz, but with a Manchester accent and a really crisp sense of humor. He's brilliant. I really recommend. He's got a new album which is called Gold, and he's just amazing. He's really amazing. His best song, though, or at least the song I discovered him through, was called, and this is really worth tracking down. Is It Enough? Is It Enough is a great song by Alabaster Plume. Get on to him. The other thing I've been doing, and I highly recommend this for anyone in the gender fight, is Frank Capra movies. I realized how much we every Christmas we watch the what do you call it? It's a Wonderful Life. In fact, it was only through having kids that I realized why people watch that every year. You know, and obviously that, you know, you're all very familiar with it, but it's really worth tracking down all Capra's movies, because like even in the bad ones, there are those little signposts, those little things he does that people don't do anywhere else, you know, like whenever there's a group of children, one child will always be hugging the neck of the person as they try to turn around. That's something I've seen in about 3 Capra movies now. And they are a real tonic after you know, so much evidence we have that the world is a terrible place and people just ain't no damn good. It is a great, he's a great person to watch, to dispel that feeling before you go to bed or do anything else in your life that requires you to believe in humanity, which I realize is being sorely tested over the last few days and weeks. But yeah, what else? Is that was there any other thing that I wanted to tell you about? No, where is it? I thought yeah, no, it was just that really. I don't have much going. Come and see the Crucible. Oh God, yeah, I'd love to see the Crucible, but it'll be woke. That's the problem, Marty. It'll be a woke Crucible. I guarantee you. The screaming teenage girls will be the heroes. Yeah, anyway, look, I didn't really have any plans. Is there did anyone want to ask? Yeah, I'll be at the Battle of Ideas next week. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that wasn't a secret. Someone just said it, so I presume it's out there. Yeah. Oh, Darren Muse. Yeah. Well, Darren's interesting. Someone pointed out, a friend of mine, James, pointed out very rightly that the point of this is not that he likes taking pictures of his bits and putting them online. Although that is something that I do think people should stop doing. I know I was photographed once on the toilet, but that was supposed to be a joke. But like, there should just be a little bit more shame coming back into the world only for people working in children's charities. Just a little bit of decorum for people working in children's charities. I think then we'll be able to move the Overton window back to where it should be, and we will know what's right and what's wrong immediately upon seeing it. Whereas, of course, what we've had over the last few years is people unsure of themselves. So, yeah, sorry, to get back to it, the video, the Susie Green video. In that video, she basically admits to all this stuff, and it's been out there for about 4 or 5 years, and no one has said anything. Everyone just said, "Yep, whatever," And what worries me sometimes is what people are going to need to see before journalists start covering it and opinion writers start talking about it. Although, has to be said, well done to the Scottish opinion writers in the Scotsman and things like that for everything they've been saying about self-ID and in support of women's rights. There's been some brilliant pieces, and it's been great to see. Montys losing the plot more than normal. You know what? I'm not surprised, because it's coming to an end. The wheels are coming off the gravy train. People are beginning to realize that, like, I would have sympathy for someone like Monty if he hadn't been lying all this time about puberty blockers and other things that are actually very important to get right. I'd have sympathy for people like Montgomery if he hadn't been so reckless. All these people have been unbelievably reckless. They're still being reckless. Owen Jones is still going on about mermaids. Another person involved in these kind of weird cover-ups they do whenever a negative story comes out that they don't want to talk about. I can't remember how I started that sentence, but yeah, no, that's it. Like, that's what I said before. Mermaids is tied to everything else. The Tavistock is tied to everything else. Puberty blockers are tied to everything else. Because mermaids and Tavistock and puberty blockers exist, and because of the problems that are being found out about them, it means that now, instead of looking at Jon Stewart's new ridiculous show and going, "Oh, maybe what about all that? Oh, I don't know, maybe there's a new type of person called a trans person who has never existed in history before." Sorry, that's a good bit to clip out for my enemies. But it's like Jon Stewart is making arguments that we have crushed like 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago. So to see him making them now is it's demoralizing, because he turns out to be just another one of these people with feet of clay. But the thing is, take heart from the fact that he's just advised by young idiots, and they're keeping these stories from him the way everyone else is trying to keep the stories from the public. So yeah, it's anyway. That's kind of me rabbiting on. I didn't mean to talk about gender stuff. Yeah, well, I'm right. The thing is, here's the thing about the writing. I'm not writing anything until the Father Ted musical is produced, and I'm going to keep shouting about that until it's ready. You know, I worked on that for 3 or 4 years, and now Hat Trick are trying to steal it from me. You know, there's no way I'm going to let them away with that. So I'm not writing anything until that's done. You know, it's ready. It's ready to go. All they have to do is put it on, and if they, you know, it's just vandalism to keep it away from the public. You know, Stuart is getting huge pushback, which is encouraging. Yes, I heard someone say that he's got the Daily Show's got a bazillion. The Daily Show's got a bazillion followers on Twitter, but it's not getting many likes. So, you know, we kind of have to trust people. You know, I think despite the media, they're not buying it. They're not buying it anymore. And I think you're going to see that more and more often. Like the Scottish opinion writers was a great sign of what's coming, I think, you know. What else we got? Is anything else? Oh, Trevor Noah. Well, Trevor Noah. My thing about Trevor Noah is, you know, like how often did Jon Stewart go viral? Right? How many Trevor Noah routines do you know? You know, Trevor Noah is a perfect comedian for this age, an age where people are frightened of comedy. He's absolutely vanilla shite, vanilla satirical shite, the kind of satirical shite that is allowed to be on television. You know, that's why, you know, YouTube is such a fantastic resource for people who love comedy. You know, because you see these amazing podcasters and you know, people like what's that guy's name? Shane Gillis, is it? The Irish American guy who got cancelled from Saturday Night Live. He's brilliant. You know, there's tons of people like that out there. That Kill Tony show is often very funny. You know, this is the real comedy. You're not going to get like real comedy on TV anymore. It's not going to happen. Not for a while. Not until the woke disease is completely eradicated. You know, it's almost impossible to watch television at the moment. Everything is so fake. Do you remember the episode of Seinfeld where George realized he didn't have any black friends, so he went out and tried to find some. He ended up watching a film, I think, with a young black girl and her father. But you know, the point of that episode, if it was that episode, was the idea of deliberately going out to make black friends. How silly and racist it was. But that's what the media is like now. It's like such a fake form of diversity, you know? And it's also not class-based at all. Everyone's middle class still, you know? It's just white people. That's what it is. It's just middle-class white people in different colors, you know? Yeah, anyway. Oh, the book club. Yeah, the book club. That was the one where the book club was the one where he had to read Breakfast at Tiffany's and couldn't manage it, which is very funny. I do feel that. I'm not as big a fan of Curb as I was of Seinfeld. I always thought Seinfeld was just a little bit more elegant, whereas Curb was just a bit, you know, sometimes I'm not a huge fan of that acting style where people are waiting to say their thing, you know what I mean? But it is often brilliant, of course. Have you watched Stuart Lee's program about blasphemy, made in the wake of his own musical being shut down by Christian protests? Jerry Springer, the opera, 20 years ago. Yes, who would have thought? Who would have thought that Stuart would join the other side, would join the religious operatives of the woke movement who shut down Jerry Sadowitz? What a turn up for the books, eh? What a twist. Sorry, I'm going to go through. Are you a big Monty Python fan? Yeah, yeah, like everyone has to be, kind of, They invented a new language, which was amazing. Also, but the other good thing about them was that their sketches were often very classical. They had a beginning, middle, and end. Even though they were really thinking outside the box, they still often, not always, but often had a proper punchline, which I do think is a sign of a good sketch. You need to have a proper punchline. You can't be doing the thing of, like, I'm afraid Fry and Laurie used to do it a little bit too much, which is where they would suddenly come out of character and talk about how they hadn't written the ending to the sketch. Pythons never did that. And I think that was probably Cleese's influence, because Cleese is very is a disciplinarian. And I remember a brilliant speech on creativity he did that I used to share when I was on Twitter, where he talked about the discomfort of being creative, and that you actually don't log off when you've come up with your first funny idea. You kind of have to sit there and sweat it out until you come up with something that's really exciting. It's a brilliant speech. I track it down. I'll try and put it, if I remember and I feel up to it, I'll put it in the thing below. No, I don't keep in touch with Dylan Moore, and I hear he's complete. I hear he's thrown Dave Chappelle under the bus on behalf of the woke. So that's him. That's him done. Cleese couldn't write. What the fuck? What are you saying? Cleese couldn't write. What Dr. Scripps? That's the craziest thing I ever heard. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm attempting to do, but it's not going that well, is it? I keep breaking into the other stuff. That's what that's the thing about this fight is it is like living in a comedy show. It's so ridiculous, all the things that happen. I mean, the mermaids, but like, I can't wait till everybody wakes up enough that I can do the comedy documentary of mermaids, and just, I mean, all you have to do is just plant a camera in front of what actually happened. It'll bring the house down, and people will go, wait, this was on the website and they were allowed to have this on the website. Yeah. It's like, do you remember when, well, no, I say, do you remember, but you're all straplings. None of you will remember this. But when I was a kid, there was a show that came out briefly called something like Teeny Bops. And it was all these toddlers dressed as pop stars. And they were singing, Madonna songs and stuff like this in heavy lipstick, right? And kind of, sexy clothing. And it was on for, I think, 2 episodes before everyone realized maybe this isn't the best show to have on television, Like, who the fuck suggested that? Mini Pops, that's what it was, yeah. But people would look at that show now and go, how on earth did this get made? People will say the same thing about mermaids, except unfortunately mermaids, the stakes have been so much higher, and the victims of mermaids are, we won't really know most of it until a lot later on, until, some of these kids are living with the decisions that either they or their crazy Munchausen parents made for them. Hello, Moody on Rudy. Yeah, Cleese and Chapman were writing partners. He kind of threw Chapman under the bus a little bit. I think he kind of suggested in that creativity speech that Chapman was the one who wasn't like as creative as him, which is a bit, I don't know, maybe not the best. Yeah. So anyway, look, I think that's, well, how long have I been on? 24 minutes. That's nearly a half hour. I'm so tired. And all my energy went into writing that grooming piece. Please do share the groomer thing that I just posted up. I think it's kind of like a culmination, if you will, of lots of thinking on that subject, and I'd like to get it out there as a talking point, because it's, oh, thanks very much, Miranda. We've got to make sure that the conversation starts to address that, because society, I think, is just waking up to, oh, we've just been under a spell, and you know, I think people are waking up. So the way to help that process along is to name processes like grooming. You know, I actually, and also please do remind people that I invented OK Groomer. In fact, sometimes I wonder if it's what they kicked me off Twitter for, because I used to say, okay, I invented OK Groomer because all these people were calling, you know, women OK Boomer, and they were saying that to women. So I replaced it with OK Groomer, and replied back to them. Because their talking points were all the same, I didn't feel like I had to give a serious answer, so I would just say OK Groomer. And I think that's why Twitter got rid of me. I think they just collected all my replies and said that I was spamming, something like that. Anyway, who cares? Thank you very much, everyone, and I will see you next time. Hopefully I'll be on with the gang soon, and we'll do a proper one when I'm not feeling quite so rough. All right, lovely to see you all. Play that game, it's brilliant. Shipbreaker.